On Sunday, I brought to you an explosive back and forth matchup between XL and Rogue. Today, we have something more chess-based. Now, when thinking about a slow, methodical team in the LCS, one team comes to mind. Total Stall Mode. Wait, I mean TSM. And their opponents for today were Immortals, and their players are known for their bulkier champs and their team fight skills. Naturally, this is going to be one of those very, very long games, and oh boy, it certainly was. And so, hey everybody, my name is Izl33, and welcome to the Anarchy analysis for the LCS Week 1. Let's jump right into things with the picks and bans. So, let's take a look at the first 3 bans of each team. Starting on the blue side with TSM's first 3 bans, we start with Irelia and Mordekaiser, which are 2 flex picks that could either go top or mid, and it gives either Broken Blade or Bjergsen a very safe matchup so that they can obviously first pick what they ideally want to choose and really have a minimal amount of counters to that champion, which obviously Immortals may not be used to being able to play or able to deal with. Now, the good thing about this is it obviously means that they're guaranteeing their first pick, and the reason they'll obviously do this for these 2 is because Kobe is pretty much guaranteed either Senna or Aphelios, so there isn't really a need to rush their first pick, because obviously if they just ban out these 3 champions, in which their final ban is a Cassio, which obviously leads to giving Bjergsen a more advantageous lane matchup where he's not dealing with a champion that he must obviously not enjoy facing, or from scrims with Immortals, it's something they've run before. Now, from this, let's look at Immortals' first 3 rounds, and these are the standard red side bans for this season so far. It's Akali, Lucian, and Qiyana, which as a whole is kind of the big OP trio in current professional play. And Qiyana has seen some play this season in the LEC and maybe a couple of games in the LCS, I'm unsure of. But she is one of these 3 champions that is probably going to be more permabanned than anything. And yeah, it isn't the best, in my opinion, for Red Side this season so far, because obviously they're having to ban out 3 champions, or set 3 every game, which is advantage to the blue side so far, which is definitely going to be the strong side, based on how the map is honestly right now, because let's just say the jungle isn't the best. Anyway, that's the first 3 bans. Let's move on to the actual champion pickups here. As expected, the first pickup for TSM is a solo laner in the Rumble, which is a strong AP champ with a lot of burn damage over time. Next up for Immortals, first pick is a counter top laner for Soaz in the Aatrox. Now, this champion is very powerful in terms of burst damage from his Q. He can also get tons of heal back from his ultimate, and that ultimate also gives him a lot of chase down potential. Along with this Aatrox, on the Immortals side, they pick up an early game jungler in an Elise. Elise obviously is very good at a level 2 gank, as you just land a cocoon and pretty much that target that's hit is probably going to die. In response to this, TSM realised that Immortals haven't picked up any of their bot lane here, so they immediately take this opportunity to pick up Senna and Tom Kench for themselves in which allows them a chance to ban out one of either an ADC or a support on the Immortal side, giving them a stronger lane advantage. Now, Immortals have to finish up this final part of the first round of picks by picking up probably the strongest support in the game at the moment for defensive capability in the Braum, who's overall very, very bulky. If you watch Torre's first game in the LEC this week, you will see how much damage he was able to soak up on that Braum pick. And I'm not going to lie, in this game, a Braum did take a lot of damage. Now, that's it for this first stage of picks. Let's go into the bans for you guys. Now, IMT get the first ban of the second round of the banning phase, and they realise that they need to get rid of a huge counter to Elise by removing literally any early game junglers like Olaf, and they get rid of his early game power so that he's not able just to counter gank where the Elise is going. However, TSM do the smart thing here with their first ban, and they obviously get a target ban at bot lane here, so they immediately take out the Aphelios, which is considered probably one of the main ADCs on this patch, and as such, with him out of the picture, it puts Immortals down to a second tier, maybe lower ADC or bot laner, and obviously gives them a slightly less powerful lane. Now, as for the second team bans here for each team, TSM go after the mid lane by removing the Pantheon as a very, very bulky sort of mid laner who's got abilities to just globally ult across the map, making the fights unfair. And with TSM obviously having this very, very powerful burst team fight, they don't want anyone jumping on top of a Senna or onto a Tom Kench who's already eaten the Senna, so that they're obviously not going to be killed as quickly. Now, with Immortals, they decide to ban out Camille, another early game jungler who can actually play make, so they continue on with that trend as we actually head into the last round of picks. As for their first pick of this last picking phase, Immortals decide to take a very, very safe bot laner who's able to stand behind the Braum shield and the Aatrox in team fights in the form of an Ezreal, and this guy has a lot of mobility as well as a lot of damage that's going to be procced from them Mystic shots being constantly peppered into team fights. Because of this, TSM realised that they obviously need to get into that backline with their jungler and have someone who's able just to kick, shall we say, them into the rest of TSM, and immediately TSM pick up a Lee Sin, which is kind of unique to TSM in the sense that the past few seasons they really haven't had this sort of mechanical god playing for them. In the jungle, they've usually just had basically a ward in the jungle. Now, I don't know about you, but having Dardoch in this team actually is making a huge difference in terms of how this TSM squad's playing. And so, them actually having this sort of champion pool on their jungler kind of makes it a lot more interesting to see what drafts TSM come up with. Now, to round out TSM's draft here, they leave their final pick to Bjergsen, and he goes for someone who's similar to Lee, who can jump into the backline and provide a lot of backline threat onto that Ezreal. And they give Bjergsen a LeBlanc, one of his more known champions. Obviously, he has a very good record on that champion, and the amount of burst that LeBlanc can do is huge and is a very, very big threat. And the last pick that I have to discuss with you guys is going to be the Zoe. Now, Zoe, if you don't know, very safe champion. Another one of those champions who can stay quite safe in the backline, who has got that tendency to jump forward, but once you get a Banshee's Veil on him, she's pretty much going to be golden for the rest of the game, as she can just safely ult forward and paddle star you to death or land a sleepy trouble bubble. But that is the draft for you guys. Let's get into some actual gameplay. In the intro, I mentioned this game was like a chessbook game, and each team was looking for that one play that gave them the win. Now, TSM's early game plan was to obviously use their burst damage that they had for the early game and use it to get themselves a lead. Now, they did this by obviously finding picks in the pathing of players on Immortal's side, and the first blood obviously comes very late into the game, 12 minutes in, and what TSM are doing are obviously trying to feed that gold into the center so they have some more damage late game in a very, very potent late game damage dealer. And they push up top lane turret using the Rift Herald that just spawned and essentially use it to push up, kill off the turret. Now, as this is happening, they obviously catch out the Elise, and they immediately burst her down and give over first blood gold as well as first turret gold to the Senna, essentially giving her that early game power that they lead. And from this amount of gold, she was able to buy a serrated dirk and a Caulfield Warhammer. Now, Immortal's plan was clearly to counteract what TSM were doing, as they kind of understood how TSM were playing, and essentially what they did was use SOAS as bait. Now, SOAS was roaming in the TSM bottom jungle and essentially was noticed by TSM, and they immediately collapse onto him thinking, oh, he's isolated, there's no other IMT members here, let's go kill him. And TSM send 4 members after him. Like, they didn't need to do this. So, what happens is IMT realise, hey, there's 4 members down bot, let's go take a free Baron. Which essentially, it was free as there was no TSM members in range of that Baron. And the even more saddening part was TSM allowed SOAS to TP up to his team, ready for the engage that TSM were bound to bring towards that Baron, as they kind of knew that the team of IMT would be at Baron, considering they've just allowed one member to escape up to him. So from this, TSM managed to pick off 2 members, but that had to essentially mean they had to change game plan, as Immortals kind of took the gold lead from this play. They gained the Baron buff, were able to take more and more turrets and gold, and essentially have control of the tempo of the game. So, what does TSM do? Well, their game plan changes into more of a thing they did last year, where Bjergsen's on a split push as champion that can end the game just like that. And what they do is they force plays around the map, or try to force plays, and Immortals obviously send 4 mid, and Bjergsen realizes this, immediately roams to the bot lane and pushes up, takes the inhib and also the Nexus turret, basically allowing a bit more freedom on the map for TSM to maybe force a play. or take a free Baron, because the entire Immortals team have had to reset due to Bjergsen's activities in their base. And yet TSM don't capitalize on the resets, and essentially, yes, they do stop the Baron take from Immortals, but they don't gain too much other than a lane that basically forces one of the Immortals members to have to babysit it. Now, what TSM could have done better in this game, where they essentially lost everything, was they gave up too much objective priority, and with that, it allowed the Immortals team members to build up their tank stats. The fact they have a Braum, they have an Aatrox, two very bulky champions that are able just to build damage as well as a lot of defensive stats, like a Maw of Malmortius, Gargoyle, Stoneplate, and stuff like that. It kind of made them unkillable for TSM, and the burst damage that Bjergsen was able to do early game was kind of negated. And as such, the game just slipped more and more out of TSM's control the more objectives they lost. And that kind of killed them overall. So, what could TSM have done better in this situation? Well, Kobe was running teleport, and they kind of had to make these last ditch efforts plays where they have to force a base race in order to actually win. And there was two Barons in this game that were taken by Immortals. One which TSM let them get for free. The second, TSM literally could have forced a play with Kobe and Bjergsen, as well as Broken Blade if he had it up, using their TPs offensively, TPing bot. If in this play, if Immortals get the Baron, they get the empowered recalls. They also had a Tom Kentrell, by the way. They could have literally used that as well. And TP'd bot. Taken all five, rushed it down lane. How quick are Immortals going to react to that? They had only two teleports. If they got the Baron, that would have been another 4 seconds. TSM already had one of the Nexus turrets down. They could have literally have pushed in a wave. It would have been a free push in. They would have had super minions at least, and were able to then just kill off the game on the Nexus turret and win from there. Instead, they gave too many objectives over to Immortals without contesting. They gave over a Baron. They gave over Elder Drake. They gave over 4 dragons, which were essentially free, and gave over the Cloud Soul to Immortals, giving them movement speed to get around the map. And that kind of killed them out of this game just there. Essentially, TSM screwed themselves out of winning this game. And coming to today, when I'm recording this, they're playing Team Liquid, and if they manage to play the macro better, I can see this TSM squad actually being dominant and super hard to beat, because this game was close. They had the strength. They just misplayed one event in this game, costing them everything. Anyway, that's going to be it for this analysis of the TSM Immortals game. It's a bit different to the first Anarchy analysis of the LEC, and it's a bit more entire game oriented because I wanted to get a TSM game in for you guys. I am a TSM fan at heart. I might as well record one of them for you guys. But this game I feel is kind of a slow, methodical pace that is hard to obviously deal with. And considering the meta, currently the games are going at least 10 minutes longer than last season, and it's really showing with teams obviously having more objectives in order to get more. The champions being played are far more bulkier in terms of the fact that you're playing your Brahms, you're playing your strong Aatroxes, you're playing champs that have so much health, like Pantheon and stuff like that, that these teams like what TSM tried to play, which is full burst, a lot of damage, aren't able to do much against well, the damage control and effectiveness of what Immortals brought. But that's going to be it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Leave a comment on your actual thoughts on the game, on how TSM could have won. And I will see you guys later for the next episode and our predictions and results for this week, which are actually quite interesting. I already know, well, half of my results are good, the rest aren't. But that's going to be it. Peace out.